What is going on, gang? Coach Joe here, tackling your Friday short questions. Fired up to be here. Today's question comes to us in the form of an iTunes review. Mr. John here with a great question, gang. If you have a question that you'd like Dr. Danny or myself to tackle, submit it here in the form of an iTunes review, and we'll do our best to get to it. I know my go about here is to jump on the reviews, hit the most recent tab, and I find one I like and go from there. I found one here from John that was pretty cool, so we're going to tackle it today. If you want to be like John, do like John, get us an iTunes review. It helps move our meter, and hopefully will help get you guys on your way to training better, training more efficiently, or training more happily. So thank you, John. So John, in his review, writes, "Great podcast." Wow. Thanks, John. We appreciate you saying that taking that extra step to write a review isn't always easy or time efficient. So thanks for starting it off so positively. Keeps me entertained and educated while I'm driving for work. Well, goodness, John. I'll also say this. Hopefully you're just listening. I know that recently my poor mother, who lives in Arkansas, my mother actually works on a disaster relief crew down in Arkansas, which is crazy. She actually was the first crew on the ground, I think last year when all the birds were dying in Iowa. She was cleaning up those frankenfitters. So thank you, Mom. But to her story and what I think of her right now doing this podcast is she was driving to work recently and some prick ran her ass off the road and her car flipped. And she mentioned that that guy was texting or on their phone. He was not paying attention to the road, and he drifted into her lane, all the way into her lane, was changing lanes, maybe in the blind spot. I don't know what was going on. But ran her ass off the road, car flipped, luckily. Without her seatbelt on, she walked away fine. So send some well wishes to Terry in Arkansas. She needs... someone's looking out for her. But the point of the story is listen while driving. Get that podcast all set up, plug it into the car, whatever you do, sync it up, then start listening. Please don't manipulate your phone while driving at the stake of listening to our podcast, all right? You might be flipping disaster relief workers and not even know it. This guy who flipped my mom's car didn't take a glance up. Didn't even know it happened. Kept driving off, so no bueno. But back to John's review as I digress into PSA territory. But the pregnancy episode was great, some good info, but the general dialogue between Danny and Joe was some of the lightest and funniest. Actually, and it was, we not only gave some tips and tricks for helping the Prego community stay fit, but we also discussed how we do and do not impregnate our own wives. So check that one out. It actually was one of the lightest, funniest, and probably I would say also one of the more informative podcasts that Danny and I have done together. But John was wondering if I or Danny could break down when to internally rotate versus externally rotate in the shoulder and hips. John, I'm going to half answer your question if that's okay and discuss the shoulder. You know, in the weightlifting community, there's always some debate about what's going on at the shoulder. You know, we hear rumors in the Chinese community that they're internally rotating at the shoulder, and we also know that guys like Mike Burgener and strength coaches like Starrett are going to, physios like Starrett are going to promote this external rotation and showing of the armpit cue. So I wanted to kind of discuss that. I think we can find a happy place, but we need to find healthy positions and healthy cueing that works for you. Excuse me as I take a sip of water. Yeah, we want to always find a cueing that's going to work for you to get the greatest positions. And I think we can always have a cue gone bad, an idea gone bad, but we need to think about, we need to watch movement, and we need to figure out what's best. So back to the discussion at hand, internal versus external rotation at the shoulder. I guess a couple years ago, I was first turned on to this internal rotation idea by an article. I think it was in Breaking Bad, Larry's Chinese weightlifting experience. And in Larry's Chinese weightlifting experience, he discusses the coach, this professional coach over there, was having him internally rotate his shoulders. And I know that we've done a podcast with Jacek, and Coach Yachts has some experience with growing up in Poland and traveling China and Chinese Taipei and the Philippines, and the coaches that he's coming across also discuss some form of internal rotation at the shoulder to support the bar overhead. But then again, Mike Burgener, Kelly Starrett, a lot of coaches over here, this external rotation. What we're really looking for, no matter how you're going to support the bar overhead, is active shoulders. We don't want the bar hanging off of a wet noodle, and we need to activate the shoulders. We do want to see some armpit. I don't know any weightlifter who, whether they're snatching or jerking, who can turn that bar over and put it behind their head and you don't see their armpit. So whether it's external rotation, spinal neutrality, active lats, you need to support that bar overhead with an active shoulder. And I am going to ask to see some armpit. You do need to see some. I don't care who it is, whether it's Lu Zhaozhang or myself. I'm going to want to see some armpit, and you can when they're supporting that bar overhead. So I'm always going to want to see some armpit when supporting the bar overhead in the snatch and overhead movement. So make sure we're seeing that. But even a cue like that can go wrong. So if some folks are, and y'all see this with younger lifters, newer lifters, and experienced lifters, or folks who just generally don't go overhead very often, we'll ask them to see the armpit, and they'll do something crazy at the shoulders, over externally rotating it, perhaps, and it's going to pop their rib forward. So any type of rotation, whether it's internal or external, where it's going to cause you to lose spinal neutrality, is going to be a no bueno. So if we internally rotate to the point where the back rounds at the top, no good. And if we externally rotate to the point where we're arching the lower back and the ribs popping forward, that's going to be no bueno as well. And if this is happening, what I like to do with my lifters is I'll put them on the ground, start with a hollow hold, do some shoulder stuff, maybe even get a PVC pipe in their hand, lying back on the ground. Then we'll stand them up, put the PVC pipe in their hand, put their back against the wall, PVC pipe overhead, then we'll have them step away from the wall. It's a simple way to get that fixed, but make sure the spine is staying neutral. Really, really important. The back needs to be neutral when we're supporting the bar overhead. It's just a must. You cannot allow any type of loss of that spinal neutrality to occur, or you will be in trouble and you'll be dumping power. So don't do that. Where I do think we can also help support the bar overhead is with a little bit of an extra cue. So again, for me, what I'm asking for is I just want to see some armpit, and then I'll work with them to make sure that they're showing me that armpit and maintaining spinal neutrality. The other thing that I do is I ask folks to twist the thumb away. Why do this? How did I come about it? And what does it help with? Twisting the thumb away, in my mind, is just that little extra cue that's going to help keep the barbell from just kind of now hanging off the elbow. If all we do is worry about showing off the armpit, well, we've forgotten about the arm and how that's going to play a crucial role in supporting the barbell as well. So twist the thumb away as you're pressing for the snatch or as you're pressing overhead in something like a strict press. We start slow, but when we do this, we just get that little bit of extra shoulder activation. And I picked up this cue, actually discussed it on a previous podcast. The podcast is titled Two Polish Guys and a Cyclist. Two Polish Guys and a Cyclist Walking to a Podcast. It's a fun podcast where we talk with Coach Jacek and his assistant Eddie. They're two weightlifting coaches out of San Jose. And those guys have some international experience. Jacek was born in Poland, and now he travels the Philippines, Chinese Taipei, and China, getting tips and tricks from coaches who have produced medalists, which is pretty cool. And then also his assistant has gone over and spent time in Chinese weightlifting camps. So over there, they're saying specifically these coaches are teaching internal rotation at the shoulder. But again, as I look at Chinese weightlifters, especially those earning international medals, I can still see some armpit. Do I know if those coaches are teaching them to internally rotate the shoulder? I'm not exactly sure. No, I don't know the coach. I don't know the lifter. But I do know that Eddie has said that that's specifically what they're teaching. And I also know that Yasik says that the Chinese Taipei national coach gave him this thumb cue. And I've incorporated that cue into my own training and can say with certainty that my lockout is stronger. I feel like I can get more scap activation, and I actually do feel like my shoulder is more active and I can shrug up higher on the bar when I do that. And I'll post a YouTube video, but again, all we're going to do is have the bar, have my hands at my ears, and I just twist my thumb away as I press out. Now, for me, you can still see my armpit, so again, you guys make your judgment there, but I'm not necessarily trying to internally rotate at the shoulder as much as I'm trying to keep my armpit exposed while still twisting my thumb away at the top of the lift. Start with just your hands and then slowly progress that to a PVC pipe. Then you can get into we'll rewind real quick. Start with your hands, press that thumb away, then get a PVC pipe and go with maybe a wide grip behind the head snatch press. Then bring your hands in and go with just your regular strict press and just practice that cue. You're going to notice you get a little bit more scap activation and you can shrug up a little harder on that bar and support it with the shoulders. It's an interesting cue. Try it. Again, we'll post this link. But it's helpful to keep the bar from not just hanging off the elbow. You just get a little extra at the shoulder. And again, this cue was picked up from Coach Yatik, and he picked it up from the Chinese Taipei national coach who's producing medals at the Olympic level. So, again, how I'll progress this cue into a snatch now, if we spend some time pressing and getting comfortable with that motion, twisting the thumb away, then I'll do some maybe pressing snatch balances, then some more dynamic snatch balances, then maybe some squat jerks, and then maybe I'll put the bar overhead and start to incorporate it. So go slow with it, figure it out, and let us know what you think on that cue. But internal, external rotation, whenever we're supporting the bar overhead, we do want to see some armpit. But in my mind, we don't want to just have that bar hanging off the shoulder. We don't want that bar hanging off the elbow. So for me, a cue that gets that little bit of extra support is to twist the thumb away at the top of the lift. Now, obviously, you're not going to do that with the bar in hand, but with the bar in hand, you will just get a little bit of rotation at the wrist. It's going to turn on the forearm, turn on the elbow, turn on the whole arm, and activate that shoulder more. The final cue when supporting the bar overhead is going to be also to get get your head through the lift. And what I mean by that is we want the bar behind the head. You don't want to drive your head and chest through that window you create when you push the bar overhead, but we do want to push the head through. When you push the head through, the shoulders can really come together and do a lot of work. So show me some armpit, twist the thumb through, and then drive the head through. And those are generally going to be my cues for supporting any bar overhead, whether it's your snatch variations, whether it is your clean and jerk variations, whether it's your press variations. And I also have found that other overhead movements like your pull-ups, it also works. So a lot of the pull-up variations that I do are behind the neck pull-ups. I'll go wide grip, I'll go narrow grip, but I'm going to pull to behind my head, and I do those same cueing. I'm going to try and push my thumb away. And again, my shoulders are happier. I was starting to get some junk shoulder not too long ago. And the things that kind of cued it up were incorporating behind the head pull-up work and incorporating this twist the thumb away cue that I picked up from Coach Yats. And my shoulder is about as happy as it's been in a long time. So, John, I hope that this discussion helps. Hopefully it doesn't confuse more than anything, but I'll sum it up one more time just to clear it out for me. When we're talking about what to do at the shoulder, we do want to see some armpit. We want that shoulder to be active. As we drive that bar overhead to support it, we want to think about twisting the thumb away, but still being able to maintain sight of that armpit. And then lastly, pushing the head through. And you'll notice you get a ton of extra scap activation. The bar's locked out nice and firm, and you'll feel pretty happy. What we'll do is post a couple YouTube videos, one of myself going through this kind of pressing, snatch, balancing, twisting of the thumb away and how to progress it. And then also a cool video that Kelly did with Diane Fu a good bit ago about seeing if it is your shoulders that are limiting your overhead movement. To sum up the what not to do's is any movement at the shoulder that's going to cause loss of spinal neutrality is going to be no bueno. If you're excessively externally rotating the shoulder to do this show me your armpits move and it's causing the rib to pop forward, you're dumping power, no good. But if you internally rotate to the point where you're losing the back, you're losing the T-spine and it's rounding at the top, no good either. Spinal neutrality is the key. So hopefully this helps. It's always confusing. We get different opinions. We get a lot of cool stuff out there. But the key here, I think sometimes, is to not focus on, we do want to look at what we're seeing, but you don't want to make assumptions on it. You don't know what's in the heart of that lifter. You don't know what that lifter and that coach are talking about. The best thing you can do is maybe reach out to them. I was fortunate enough to come across a coach through some interesting circumstances with some international experience, who's given me some cool cueing. And talking with him, you kind of make your own assumptions about what's going on, and you make those cues your own. So hopefully this helps, John. Hopefully, gang, this helps you. And if you'd like the Doc and Jock podcast to help your weightlifting, your CrossFitting, your pregnant wife, or even keep your mother on the road like mine wasn't not too long ago, shoot us a question in the form of an iTunes review, and Dr. Danny and I will tackle it. Eventually, we will get to all of these, and we appreciate it, guys. And also, guys, this podcast here with some weightlifting advice is brought to you by Joe's Barbell. That's my personal weightlifting page. A ton of remote weightlifting services. We can do private sessions via the Skype. We can set up monthly packages where we meet. We can do personal programming, and we can do some video analysis. So send us your emails to joe@joesbarbell.com if you're interested in getting a little bit of weightlifting coaching. That is convenient. That's the one cool thing about this internet game, guys. We can do it anywhere. I set up in my garage, you set up in your garage, and we have at it. We have training folks in New Hampshire. We got some clients in Arkansas, Georgia, South Carolina, and we love doing it. So shoot me. Oh, and we got pick up a newbie here in San Francisco, which is awesome. So shoot me your emails if you were interested and intrigued by some of this weightlifting chatter in this podcast. We'd love to get you on the roster and help you out. But until then, guys, remember that if you have a body, you are an athlete. And thanks for listening.